Hello and welcome back to Rural Health for You and Everybody. I'm Amber Sorensen, the Marketing Director of the Murray County Medical Center, and I'm here with Tom Bergman, one of our Rural Health Clinic providers and most frequent podcast guests. Hello, Tom. How are
Greetings.
you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. For those of you who haven't heard an episode, Tom is one of our Rural Health Clinic providers. He likes orthopedics. He likes, I don't even know what else you like, Tom. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. I used to do physical therapy, so orthopedics is definitely a special interest of mine. But I don't discriminate. I like the general practice.
Sure. And so, as our listeners know, as you know, we're into the midst of summer, which brings the summer heat, the summer bugs, people being outside a lot more. So we're going to talk about wood ticks, poisonous plants, things like that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
What do people always think about when they think about wood ticks is probably Lyme disease. It's actually a little bit more difficult to contract than you might think. Typically, a tick needs to be on your person for multiple days. If you notice the creature right away, you want to try to remove it as best you can in its entirety using a tweezers or some other method, and try not to let it stay on you for very long. Symptoms can be pretty variable. You know, the classic is the bullseye rash, which not everyone gets. Other symptoms of Lyme disease could be joint aches, headaches, just general feeling of malaise. If there was a tick that you found, something that you can do is treat prophylactically, and typically we use doxycycline. That covers early stage Lyme disease as well as some other tick-borne not so fun conditions. But again, it's pretty rare to contract. If you go to different parts of the country, it is a little bit easier to run into some of these things, but where we're at, not every tick is going to be causing a problem. And typically the ones that carry Lyme are the real small ones with the black legs. You can get kind of big gnarly looking ones, and they're actually they carry their own kind of form of pestilence, I guess, but not so much the Lyme. But anyway, long story short, try to check yourself after you're outside, especially at the lake or in the grass and different things. Make sure you don't got any of those nasty little critters on you. Now, there's other things that a person can run into, including different kinds of bug bites. It's very difficult to tell what typically has done this to you. There's certain patterns that, for instance, chiggers can have if it's around your ankles or your hands. There's different things that have their own kind of characteristics, but a lot of times it's conservative management. You can use topical cortisone creams to help with any itching. If we're talking bee or wasp stings, obviously you want to remove the stinger if you can. Spider bites, there's not a lot of treatment for it. They happen, and usually they're just kind of local problems. There's different spiders that have varying potency of venom as well, but for the most part, it's conservative treatment, pain medications, cleansing the area, topical cortisone creams, things like that. Let's see, what else? Oh, poisonous plants. Poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac. There's several different poisonous plants, and the general, thing to be aware of is if the plant has kind of a waxy film to it. That's the stuff that you kind of want to stay away from. There's different weeds like nettleweed that is more of a kind of a thorny, stinging kind of thing. It doesn't have like a film or a wax, and you can't really spread it. But with poison ivy and those kinds of things, you can get it on your clothes, transfer it to your car, transfer it to different things. And basically, if you notice that you've been into this, you really want to cleanse your clothes and your skin as best you can. And sometimes, you don't know it until several days later. And there's a certain characteristic of some of those plants to where you can almost see like lines on your skin where you might have walked through it and it rubbed, kind of a line. That's typically what they look at. And you can spread it if you're scratching it. You don't really want to do that. Sometimes you can get, varying degrees of severity and reaction, and you can have bacterial contributions on top of it. So I guess try to stay away from those things as best as possible. If it's waxy, don't touch it.
It's good, solid advice.
Yeah.
So circling back to the bugs a bit, even though it makes me get the creep crawlies. So the med that you mentioned for ticks in particular, is that something, for those of us that don't know anything about ticks, is that something that's like kind of after that initial point of maybe it's been a few days and then you see a tick and then it's like, okay, get that med, or how does that work?
It just depends on how, I guess, concerned you are. If you notice the thing and it hasn't gotten very large, generally it probably hasn't been embedded for very long. But sometimes, figuring out how many hours you've had a tick on you is going to be very difficult. But the medication's doxycycline, and based on the severity of your condition, sometimes it's not enough and you need to have more than one antibiotic. But for the most part, tick-borne stuff, that does a pretty good job of. For little kids, we generally don't give that stuff to growing children. There's alternatives that work almost as nice, but everyone has their allergies to things, and there's usually alternatives for multiple treatment strategies for that. But yeah, if you go through tall grass or if you're out in the bushes or the weeds, they kind of home in on carbon dioxide, and it doesn't take much for them to kind of get up in your business. So just I guess self-surveillance is a general good move.
Good rule of thumb. Anything else to add before we wrap up?
Not really. I think I don't know many people that like spiders, but for the most part, they're not, I don't want to say poisonous, because some of them can be, but as far as, having severe consequences, there's certain spiders like a brown recluse, they're very rare. They can cause some flesh-eating kind of damage, but for the most part, it's just local irritation, redness, and that's the general rule with a lot of bugs and things. It's not, there's not a great treatment for it, so if you come in with a bite or a sting, we might tell you, well, conservative management is probably the best, but sometimes people run into allergic responses to like wasps and bees and different things, and you can require some steroids or Benadryl or different strategies. So if you're ever uncertain of how to handle something, then certainly we can help you out here.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for being here, Tom.
It was great, like usual.
And if you'd like to make an appointment in the clinic, you can call the Murray County Medical Center at 507-836-6153. That's 507-836-6153.